Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bourbon Note. I'm Greg.
I'm Ben.
And today, we're drinking bourbon.
Wheat whiskey.
Wheat whiskey. All right, Ben. What is this wheat whiskey you speak of?
This wheat whiskey is, bam, Bernheim Original Kentucky Straight Wheat Whiskey. So, not the first time we've had this.
True.
But it's been a long time, and I remember liking it, but I don't remember much about it. So, years ago, when we were just new at doing this whole Bourbon Note thing, we did a video where we did this one versus the Woodford Wheat Whiskey.
Which at the time we thought were the only two that we could find of actual wheat whiskeys. There probably were others, but
sure,
not stuff that we could find easily.
But a Heaven Hill product, 7
Yes.
years old, is, from what I understand, I think this is like a barely legal wheat where it's the 51%. It kind of has some same parameters as bourbon. I don't, however, know what the legal aging is. It says aging in new charred oak barrels. Okay, so it's aged like a bourbon.
It's just like a bourbon and 7-year age statement.
Yep.
90-ish proof, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 90.
And I think we're in for a treat here because we tend to like wheaters maybe a little more than a lot of people.
I think I do, for sure. I'm
yeah,
definitely
and
a
I do
wheat fan.
too.
And Heaven Hill knows what they're doing.
And we've had some great, the couple wheat whiskeys we've had we really like. So let's get into the nose here. A little bit of that,
Bubble gum.
yeah, pink bubble gum, the bubble tape.
Gum. Yeah,
you can almost smell the white dust on it.
Exactly.
The pink big league chew.
Yep.
Ever since we learned about that note, we pulled that out of wheaters a lot.
Definitely.
Decent amount of sting to the nose for a 90
A little bit of
proofer.
sting and a little bit of caramel. Like a nice, rich, complex caramel. Now, I've had it before. I've had it several times, and I'm admittedly a fan of wheat whiskey.
Okay.
We do know that wheat whiskey is one of those products that's hard to distill because it, like, as you're distilling it, it can go bad in a hurry. I think.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I think it's actually one of the reasons it's a little bit harder to find on the shelf is because it's kind of hard to actually distill and do a good job of it.
Okay. And we've always said that wheaters in general they can tolerate a little less time in the barrel but still get a full flavor.
Yep.
And we don't know if there's any science behind that. That's just been our experience. We think you can get away with a little bit of a lower age statement on a wheater sometimes. And so at 7 years, this
is quite mature. And I personally think that a high-aged wheater can taste over-oaked at like 12 years.
Okay.
Sometimes, not all of them, and there are older ones, but all right, here we go.
Cheers. Oh, I like that just fine.
So I like it a lot. Like, I think it's great.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it is so close to bourbon, but it just is missing. There's like something missing, and it's the corn note, obviously, but there's like a certain density or a certain something that's just different.
What I was gonna say is for a 7 year, it's a little thin.
Yes.
You know? So it's lacking the viscosity. But the taste is, I think it's really nice actually. Wheaters, if you're not familiar, kind of known for having a little bit of a smoother flavor profile in the sense that sometimes they're not quite as jagged. This isn't always, but as a general rule, they kind of give you a softer, easier drinking profile.
But they also don't have the real rush of sweetness that I think the corn provides some of that. Because
wheaters are sweeter in general than rye, secondary grain whiskeys.
But this to me, it has a touch of sweetness. But it's still not as sweet as some bourbons.
Yeah. But it's weird. It's an interesting balance because I'm getting a decent bit of char, which at 7 years, 7 years is a perfectly fine age for an American whiskey, I would say.
It is a little dry on the finish, but not super dry. Like it's not super like bitter or the kind of the alcohol tannin or alcohol and tannins kind of making that finish really dry.
Boy, I like the flavor of this. And the reason I bought it is because it's been a while.
I wonder if you're about to say what I think I'm thinking. Well, I know what I'm thinking.
So what I was going to say is I bought this as just kind of have like it's a sub $30 bottle. So it's by no means an expensive thing. It's fairly budget friendly.
And I have this exact bottle on my shelf as well.
And so I bought it and I was like, well, you know, a 90 proofer, it's kind of nice to have a good flavored 90 proofer around when you just want to have maybe a bourbon or two, but you don't want something high proof because you're trying to keep it, you know, under wraps. I feel like this one was going to be a good option for that, and I think it is. Mm-hmm. But what I'm really focusing on is it's very thin. So, it's coming across very thin, that lack of viscosity.
So it's got a really nice initial flavor. The mid flavor and experience of like that's where you get the density or viscosity coating the tongue. Mm-hmm. That's what's different, because I'm just getting almost a kind of a bitter astringent wood flavor.
Yeah, there's smoke on there for sure.
And then it has some nice finish. Like it's overall really good, but it's not the flavor as much as the experience is different than bourbon. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say the only drawback to this is that it's just not, there's no oiliness to it, there's no mouthfeel. I would like to see this at a higher proof.
And they started releasing it recently,
yeah.
Right? Which I've never seen one.
So if you watch our bourbon hunting videos, you'll know in the first handful of them, I was basically hunting for Bernheim barrel proof. Now,
well, you should mention that to our viewers, because we've got hundreds of people
maybe
out.
Maybe we could get a sample, yeah.
Let us know where you see one, and Ben will fly over there and pick one up.
Here's what I'm looking forward to most about finally getting that bottle, and I don't know if you remember this or not. So this was about 2 years ago we did the video that I said before. Yep. You and I started talking, and one of us, I can't remember who, I think probably both of us agreed, boy, we'd love to see this. Can you imagine this at barrel proof? Mm-hmm. And they didn't make it back then. Right. They made it in the sense that you could go to the distillery and you could pour your own.
Our theory is Heaven Hill was watching, and they said, that's such a good idea. You know what?
As soon as I saw that advertised, I was like, we totally said it. And I believe in the video you said, let's go down to Heaven Hill and just sit on their doorstep and tell them we're not leaving until we get a Bernheim barrel proof. And sure enough, a couple years later, obviously they watched that episode.
Yeah, of course.
Started releasing it as a general release. Now you can go to the distillery and you can bottle your own bottles, and you can bottle your own Bernheim barrel proof. And that's always been there. But now they have a general release to the public, like the Larcenies.
That sounds awesome.
So you're welcome, Whiskey World, because obviously
I would love to try it, and I certainly would buy one if I saw it. But I do have, I'm curious where it's going to go, because adding more ethanol seems to take away from the mouthfeel it sometimes, and so
it can, but also sometimes it adds to it because you're not, you know, it's not as watery. So I mean,
who knows?
It'll be an interesting experience when we finally get that. This is really good in flavor, but I'm kind of surprised at how thin it is from remembering, you know, now I won't have a problem, you know, having this as a nice casual pour or whatever.
Casual pour
and for the $30.
Yeah, sure.
Not mad at that at all. So, I mean, if you want to try it, go ahead. It's got good flavors, but it is a bit thin. It actually drinks a little lighter than 90 proof, I guess is what I would say.
That's the weird part. I'm getting plenty of proof. It's still just a density and experience that's missing.
Okay. Well, you know, you're going to have that sometimes, I guess. But overall, I'm definitely looking forward to the barrel proof one. So
totally agree.
All right. Well, this has been Bernheim Wheat Whiskey Small Batch 7-Year on the Bourbon Note. I'm Ben.
I'm Greg. Till next time. See you next time.